Welcome to the International Volleyball Academy, where we teach you how to play volleyball step by step. So it's important to see our academy from the very beginning, as each episode builds on what you've learned in the previous ones.
In the third and fourth episodes, we covered the bump pass, and the main message was difference between a free ball and a fast ball. How to play a bump pass in the case of a slow ball or a fast ball. It is important because they are two completely different modes, both in terms of muscle work and biomechanics. In the case of a free ball, we have to push the ball. In the case of a fast ball, we have to absorb the speed of ball. In this episode, we will be dealing exclusively with fast ball, since our topic is receiving the serve. We'll be interested in the situations a player gets into when receiving a serve and how to react properly.
For example, the problem arises when the ball goes in front of a player who has to deal with the situation by lowering his center of gravity to the ground. A possible complication is that when the player receives the ball just above the ground, the conditions for absorbing the speed are worse. We cannot absorb the speed with the body, but only with our arms. This is why mistakes often occur, as in this case.
Receiving a serve is an act of absorbing the speed of the ball. The incoming ball has a high speed, which the receiving player must take away. He uses all parts of his body to do this. First and foremost, of course, his arms. However, the legs or the torso also play a part in absorbing the speed. Often it is also absorbed by falling backwards.
However, very often the incoming ball is not directed at the player and he is forced to receive it next to his body. We have to prepare for this in training, not only for mature players for whom it is a common situation, but also for young children, because it is a reality of the game already in the U14 age group. We use throwing to do this because children at this stage do not have fast balls enough yet, but they can throw the ball by pushing it away from their chest.
In this period of child development, we have to be patient and encourage the children. We must endure the period of setbacks and overcome it by working together. There is nothing to be done. Children at the age of U13 are often already capable of making good serves and good reception, must respond to this.
The hardest part is teaching the kids to try to get into the flight path of the ball with the center of gravity of their body when they receive the ball heading next to them. Children understand well when we say to get to the ball with the belly button. Remember this exercise from episode 4? Anyway, it's one of those difficult phases of volleyball development for kids. The serve just takes advantage over the receive, and it takes time for kids to master it, like this Czech national team player.
In the top level of volleyball, players deal with situations where the ball is heading next to the body in different ways. By proper arm positioning, rotation of the torso, sideways movement of the legs, or by adjusting the receiving position. Grit your teeth, practice honestly, and eventually you will get it right, like our youngsters. U14 volleyball already has a solid form, including receiving a fast-flying serve.
In any case, even in these situations, it is true that receiving the serve is an act of absorbing the speed of the ball, which practically means that it is an active movement of the body or part of it backwards. Before we go any further, it should be recalled that we have so far discussed the situation when the ball is directed next to the player's body, but relatively low, up to waist level at most. In such cases, it is necessary for the player to bring the center of gravity of the body to the point of contact with the ball.
The situation is different if the ball is heading upwards at head height. Here, the player must handle the situation differently. Specifically, a few steps or micro movements of the legs backwards, plus a rotation around the standing leg. The player sort of slightly dodges the ball to gain space for absorbing the speed of the ball between the torso and arms. Often, however, there is no time for any backward movement, and the player addresses the situation directly by rotating around the standing leg. The mentioned dodging of the ball is purposefully trained in children at an early age.
And again, The exercises from the 4th episode are useful. We can do them practically into adulthood. It is very important in this exercise that the ball flies fast and actually goes to the level of the head, because if it goes to the level of the waist or even the knees, this method has no justification. Furthermore, we must make sure that the angle between the torso and the arms remains the same throughout the action, even when it happens behind the player's body.
Of course, this is compounded by proper arm positioning. And again, we add the memory of the 4th episode and the emphasis on targeting. Any sloppiness in arm setup is immediately punished with an error. As we said in a previous episode, rotation around the standing leg often causes contact with the ball to occur when both of the player's feet are in the air and have no ground support. There is simply often no other option. But that's not all. The entire repertoire of options for the receiving player would not be complete if we forgot the situations where the player must fall to the ground.
Whether it is a kneeling fall or a full body fall, these situations are quite common in the game with the good quality of the serve. Receiving serves thus starts to approach the fielding game when picking up a hard spike. These are the moments when the player has no choice but to basically save the situation.
The goal is not to pass accurately on the setter, but to keep the ball in play in any way possible. And sometimes you can't do that either. Even the final handling of the ball can vary, from two-hand contact to a one-handed hit.
It is a big mistake to label some techniques as basic and others as supplementary. Receiving a serve is simply a variety of different situations, and we need to prepare players for all of them, so that it doesn't end up like in this case or even like this. The road to a championship form of reception will be long and thorny, but in the end we will make it like this extra league player.
Of course, mistakes come, but a good player takes failure as an opportunity to improve, and the coach must contribute to such a psychological climate. The result will be high-quality reception skill and self-confidence.
When receiving, we distinguish between free ball and fastball. Receiving is an act of absorbing the speed of the ball. The receiving player takes away the ball's speed. Receiving a ball falling in front of a player complicates the muting. Receiving the ball next to the body low, we guide the kids to get their center of gravity to the ball. We use throwing in the children's training. If the ball is head high, we prefer to move backwards and rotate around the standing leg. Even when rotating, we try to keep the same angle between the torso and the arms. We also prepare the player for situations where he has to fall when receiving. All types of receiving must be controlled by the children without exception.
And what's next? You can look forward to preparatory games for the proper development of the ability to receive the serve. Soon you'll be receiving serves like a pro.